All right, so now, of course, I have to include Scottie Pippen's segment on First Take with Stephen A. Smith and Max Kellerman, in which he discusses who's the greatest player of all time, Michael Jordan or LeBron James. Let's see what they have to say.
All right, let's do this, people. It's one of the best sports debates of the last decade.
Well, I will say that it's one of the best sports debates of the last 2 years, because I don't think that even LeBron James would have taken this discussion even remotely seriously until he had won a championship for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that's why, if you notice, he did not even touch on that conversation topic until he beat Golden State in 2016. That's when, if you notice, in the offseason after 2016, he started talking about Jordan. And he's chasing that ghost. And he started talking about how Jordan's teammates didn't get enough credit. Why? Because LeBron James knows that in order for him to catch Jordan, he has to try to pull him down. He's not going to be able to ascend up to that mountain. He's going to have to pull him down. And look, I do not begrudge the NBA for trying to push the narrative about LeBron versus Jordan. I don't begrudge the modern day generation of fans for trying to push the narrative of LeBron versus Jordan, because you should want to rep for your generation. My father still tells me, boy, you don't know nothing about Oscar Robertson. Oscar Robertson was just as good as Michael. So every generation is going to rep for their guy. My dad had Oscar. A half generation before me, they had Magic. I caught Magic at the very end, Magic and Bird at the end. Of course, my generation had Jordan. The half generation after me had Kobe, and now you have the LeBron guys. And that's okay. You're supposed to rep for your generation. Guys growing up back in the 60s, they'll tell you Walt was better than Shaq. That's part of the sports convo. It's all pretty much hypothetical and fantastical. But LeBron James definitely has, he's etched out a definitive niche for himself. And he is, in my view, as I've stated numerous times on this channel, a top 10 all-time great player at the very least. In my view, he's probably around top 5 right now, even though that's debatable. To me, when you talk about the top 5, it's Jordan, Russell, Kareem, Magic, and Bird. Now, LeBron is right there with Magic and Bird. I think that they're a triumvirate. And you could put 2 out of 3 of those guys in those bottom 2 slots in the top 5. And I wouldn't have a problem with it. I still would take Bird over LeBron right now, because I think that Bird played in a different era. He played in a slightly more physical era with different rules. And to be quite frank with you, it's hard to compare eras because there's just different styles of play. It's much easier to get to the basket now, which is why certain players have, inflated offensive statistics slightly. When you look at some of the metrics for greatest offensive teams of all time, a lot of offensive records have been broken in the last 3 years because of the rule changes. So it's hard to compare. Like, you can't compare even Michael Jordan's era to Oscar Robertson's era, or Michael Jordan's era to LeBron James's era. If Michael was playing today, he'd play a lot like a James Harden or Russell Westbrook. The only difference is that Michael would be much more proficient. He wouldn't be shooting 42%. He'd be shooting 52%. But he'd still have the ball at the top of the key, running a 1-4, drive and kick. That's very similar to the style that he played under Doug Collins, for those of you who remember, back in '89. He played that style. He averaged 32, 8, and 8, and he averaged a triple-double like the last 15 games of the season, damn near. So it would have been nothing for Jordan to do a lot of the things that guys are doing today, but he was not as cognizant of metrics and stats as guys are today, especially LeBron. LeBron is a stat guy. So he plays for stats because he knows that's the only way he's going to catch Jordan. But let's see what Scottie Pippen's going to say, because Scottie, as usual, is like Michael's little brother in more ways than one. And what little brothers like to do, they like to troll their big brother. And Scottie loves to troll Michael. Whenever he has the opportunity, he's going to co-sign somebody being better than Michael.
They're getting ready behind me. LeBron James versus Michael Jordan, right? LeBron's having one of the best seasons of his 15-year career, averaging a career highs in field goal percentage in a...
Look at Stephen A. Stephen A. got his face all up in Scottie's face because he already knows what Scottie's going to say. Remember, Stephen A. is an NBA insider. He has many resources in regards to information pertaining to how these guys think. Remember, these guys are NBA players. A lot of them use recreational drugs, and a lot of them get their drink on. So what happens when people use recreational drugs and they get their drink on? They get loose with their lips. They just start talking shit, and their true feelings about guys comes out, and it gets back to people like Stephen A. So he knows how Scottie feels about Michael. That's why he's all up in Scottie's face right now, because he's waiting for Scottie to say what he knows he's gonna say.
Assists, this is really happening. Still trails Jordan by 3 NBA titles, though. Scottie Pippen, you would know better than anyone. How close is LeBron to catching Jordan?
The numbers don't lie. He's right there. He probably will never catch him in terms of MVP.
Okay.
But in terms of statistics, LeBron is right there. And when you look across the board, not just scoring, check his assists, check his rebounds, he's probably ahead of Jordan.
Oh my God! I don't want to throw this water on you.
No, you don't want to throw that water on Scottie. Scottie will get up and whoop your ass. All right, go read about what he did to that dude down there in Hawaii. You don't want to do that to Scottie. Scottie still has a lot of anger in him. He feels like he hasn't received the credit in his career that he feels he deserved for being an all-time great. That's another reason why he likes to nitpick at Michael. But Scottie knows what Michael could do. And at the end of the day, the current narrative about Michael was that Michael was just a scorer. Michael was not just a scorer. He was a phenomenal all-around player. He was a tremendous defensive player. If you listen to First Things First with Chris Carter and Nick Wright, those two guys are constantly talking about the greatest shot-blocking guard of all time, and they keep talking about Dwayne Wade. The greatest shot-blocking guard of all time was Michael Jordan, and it's really not close. Michael Jordan had multiple seasons of over 100 blocks. Okay? He's the only player in NBA history to have more than one season of 200 steals and 100 blocks. Michael Jordan did that. He's the only player in NBA history to win NBA MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same season. So, LeBron will eventually eclipse Michael in cumulative stats, but that does not really tell the story.
Let me tell you, Scottie Pippen.
You went there.
Hurry up, 'cause I gotta get in here on that one. Blasphemy that just came
Max
out.
wants to get in there.
6 NBA
Max, are you
finals.
listening to
6
this?
NBA finals.
Look, Scottie's saying, Max, are you listening to this? Because he thinks Max is going to jump on his side. And watch how Scottie's face turns. Scottie has a deep-seated issue with Michael. I think that is due to what Michael put him through his first few years in the league. Michael really said a lot of things to both him and Horace Grant that both of them have had a hard time getting past because Michael was trying to make them tougher. And Michael really did not really believe in them when they first got to Chicago. So they still have a little bit of animosity there. A lot like little brothers do if they have a tempestuous relationship with their older brother.
6 NBA finals MVPs, undefeated, never even allowed the Game 7 to take place. You're going to do it. And by the way, speaking about numbers, you lucky I don't have more time with you. You lucky.
You are.
I'm looking at a dude that averaged just 16 points per game for his career on 47% shooting. Who would that be? You!
Yeah.
And by the way, you're one of the greatest ever. It ain't just about numbers, and you know it. And last question. Can you tell me, other than scoring points and obviously shooting more, what does LeBron James do any different than what you did?
Really, what Stephen A is saying is that the reason why Scottie is trying to promote LeBron is because Scottie sees a lot of himself in LeBron. That's pretty much what Stephen A is implying by that question.
All right, look.
Go ahead, Max.
Scottie, I'll make this real easy. We heard from you. I want to make this real easy. All the advanced metrics say Jordan's peak better than LeBron's peak. His career average better than LeBron's career
asking you,
average.
Stephen,
All that
just
stuff.
let's
Now
let
check
Max
this out, Scottie. Now check this out, Scottie. He didn't play with an all-star his whole career, so he didn't win it. He didn't get past the Pistons. The first time he played with an all-star, his name was Scottie Pippen. You took the Pistons 7 games. You couldn't play in Game 7, so they beat you. The next...
Yeah, because you couldn't deal with the stress. So you left Michael out there by himself in Game 7.
You hit your prime.
Look at Scottie's face. Scottie looking at Stephen A like, this nigga trying to play me.
All the stats say you hit your prime. And Michael Jordan, never again in a full season on the Bulls, didn't win the championship in under 7 games. As soon as he got a crew, no one gave him any cops, Scotty, and you were the crew originally. LeBron's not messing with no MJ.
Well, look, a lot of the LeBron James fans are going to get very upset about this. But sometimes you have to have seen things to put it in proper context. Max is saying what he's saying because he understands the difference between having to win with homegrown talent as opposed to, going to teams that are ready-made, which is what LeBron James basically does. All-time great player, like I said, arguably top 5 right there. But, when you're comparing him on an all-time scale, then you have to go through different criteria. And when you talk about what happened against the Dallas Mavericks in the 2011 finals, when you look at the fact that he had to go to various teams to elevate his chance of winning championships, it is what it is.
Well, I will say this. You want to know the difference between me and LeBron? LeBron has always been the leader on his team.
That is true.
And he's always been the guy that has dominated the basketball on his team. That's the difference between my career and LeBron James' career. I played with a player that was more dominant with the basketball. I played with one of the greatest scorers that ever played.
You played with one of the most cutthroat stars ever, if not the.
I played with the.
Has LeBron ever had that?
Now you see what Scottie did there? When he mentioned Michael's scoring, he said one of the great scorers, but when he mentioned him as being cutthroat, he said the most cutthroat. So clearly what stands out to Scottie is how cutthroat Michael was. And that term cutthroat means relentless, and it also means without compassion. So once again, Michael Jordan clearly made quite an impression on Scottie Pippen and most likely most of his other teammates during their time period together, which still has had an impact on Scottie to this day.
Had that attribute?
I'm not saying that Scottie hates Michael, but it's clear that there is some backlying history between them that Scottie still hasn't been able to move past. I mean, which is understandable, depending on what was done to you and how it was done.
No, but you can't compare LeBron to Michael.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
We're talking 2 players in 2 different positions.
Okay.
In 2 different eras.
But you're not going to compare Michael Jordan to Wilt Chamberlain. Are you?
You know what I can't say?
Are you going to compare Michael Jordan to Bill Russell?
I say LeBron James is
if Bill Russell had that cut, I'm sorry, Wilt Chamberlain had that
Settle down.
No.
Bill Russell.
Scotty, thank you. Bye,
for
everybody.
Sky, like, nigga, let me catch your ass outside. Okay, so now Michael Smith and Jamel Hill also decided to touch on Scottie Pippen's comments regarding LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Let's see what they have to say. Michael Smith made a statement very similar to mine in regards to the sentiment that Michael Jordan was just a one-dimensional player, which is a modern-day narrative that is promoted to try to elevate LeBron James over Michael Jordan for some strange reason.
Scottie Pippen, he was on First Take earlier today, and he had a hot take when it came to LeBron versus.
It really wasn't that hot. It really was predictable, if you know Scottie. Once again, Stephen A. already knew what Scottie was going to say because he knows how Scottie really feels about Jordan. And notice he called him Jordan. Scottie did. Scottie called him Jordan. He didn't call him Michael.
Don't do it, Scottie.
How close is LeBron to catching Jordan?
The numbers don't lie. He's right there. He probably will never catch him in terms of MVP.
Okay.
But in terms of statistics, LeBron is right there. And when you look across the board, not just scoring, check his assists, check his rebounds, he's probably ahead of Jordan.
Oh my God!
You know what? See, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Really? He took the easy way out. He took the stats route.
Okay.
Yes, the stats route is the easy way out because the stats route is how they're going to try to make it an even playing field. See, Michael Smith understands, but Michael Smith is from my age group, so he knows the game. But you can't go the stats route because the stats route tell you that, John Stockton was a better point guard than Magic Johnson just because he had more assists. Now John Stockton was great, but he wasn't Magic. You just can't look at stats, especially cumulative stats.
Okay.
The stats route. Okay. All right. And LeBron's going to be up there if not at the top of every stats list by the time he's done. Okay, I just want to make sure that Pippen isn't making the same mistake people are making when it comes to Jordan. He's somehow underrated as time goes on as an all-around player.
Absolutely. His all-around game is greatly underrated. His passing, his defense.
As if all he did was win 6 rings and shoot fadeaways. Jordan was the preeminent perimeter defender not named Scottie Pippen. Look at the puppeteer when it comes to passing. I'll get to Embiid in a second.
I agree with Michael Smith. He's talking about a video called The Puppeteer where it shows on YouTube where it shows Jordan's passing ability. There are a lot of videos that you can go to. There are a lot of different channels out there with guys that put out highlights of what Jordan used to do during his playing career, particularly with the Bulls. Once again, it is a conversation. LeBron James is phenomenal. A lot of great players. But you can't go the stats route. Because in my view, LeBron James and Larry Bird are on the same level. And LeBron's stats far outpace Larry Bird's stats because he played longer. And Larry Bird has certain debilitating injuries that inhibited him from playing at his level of proficiency for as long a period of time as he could have. Also, during that era, they did not have the knowledge of training techniques that they have now. And also, they didn't have the performance sedans and drugs that they have now. All right, it is what it is. But anyway, that's the issue with Scottie and Michael. Michael need to give his ass a call and say, nigga, keep my name out your mouth. If they ask you about me and LeBron, you plead the fifth. All right? Because if you don't, I'm going to send Future out there to go deal with your wife again. How about that? But anyway, peace.